Welcome to the American Academy of Grief Counseling's videogram on toxic positivity in life. And toxic positivity is an attempt to hide when one isn't happy. It's an attempt to masquerade a false narrative when something bad happens. So accepting what is wrong is okay. And that's the emphasis of today's video. Many times individuals cannot accept the bad situation or emotional moment, but we must be prepared to be fine with it in terms of being fine with our emotions that are less than ideal at the moment. These raw emotions are very important to our reaction to the loss and also for our overall healing throughout the process of bereavement. Some individuals will attempt to coat life then with a false or what we refer to as a toxic positivity to hide the reality. So others will attempt to make others accept this false narrative as well. So sometimes the toxic positivity is self-imposed, and in other cases, individuals are trying to enforce their own toxic positivity upon the situation. So when the situation, loss, or pain is ignored, it can only get worse and no true healing can come from it. So it is important to embrace emotion, accept the sometimes painful journey, and experience the process itself. So toxic positivity within self occurs when individuals dismiss something with a false, and I would refer to it as a Pollyanna syndrome, that old Disney movie where the happy Pollyanna always tries to make light of everything that occurs. So they will dismiss when things are truly wrong, those who embrace this type of toxic positivity, trying to find happiness when happiness really isn't there. And they're always looking for a silver lining. And it's good sometimes to look for a silver lining, but in these particular instances, there is no silver lining. Someone just passed away. It's a horrible feeling. But to try to change it into something that might be good is an example of toxic positivity, or to make oneself feel good instead of feeling bad. So toxic positivity damages the healing process. It is tainted with this outlook to avoid pain at all costs. And for some individuals, this will keep them in abusive relationships. It'll keep them chained to complex grief reactions and also blind them to a false narrative in life. Many will avoid the emotion to avoid conflict at all costs, to avoid facing the situation. So they'd rather make it less than what it is. And when they try to make it less than what it is, this insults the very nature of the loss itself. It lightens the severity and the price of the loss or the value of what is wrong that is occurring. It's dismissed. So this damages the person. It prevents expression of healthy emotions due to the simple fear of confrontation. It represses one's feelings and keeps the pain inside instead of allowing it to escape. And that's only leading to a larger and bigger breakdown further down the road. So many try to spin positivity on bad things to others. So sometimes it's not just oneself. But these individuals have their own issues. These emotional bullies sometimes can't handle their own feelings, and they do not wish to deal with the situation. So they try to put a spin on it to make it better because they are uncomfortable with the situation and they want to create a safer, emotional, safe place for them, not the individual who is actually suffering in effect. And another type are many who have not ever really lost anything yet. They come up with so many easy and multitude of platitudes to express. C.S. Lewis, in his Grief Observed, speaks of all the platitudes he was once able to speak to someone who lost someone. And then when he lost his beloved H, quote unquote, he finally understood that those platitudes really mean nothing. They have no bearing. And that he really, in his own self, his own faith, was really at that time a house of cards. And he later comes to a closer conclusion of how to resolve his grief. But initially, he sees what this does. And again, this goes to the famous phrase, and it is a type of toxic positivity, especially on the first day something bad happens, maybe to say when someone comes up to you and says, make lemonade when life gives you lemons. Well, this phrase might be deemed helpful in trying to positively spin something, but it forgets the fact that one first must acknowledge the lemon. How can one further themselves and get over it and make better out of the bad situation until they acknowledge the situation? So toxic positivity looks to ignore the pain and not fix the situation itself. So how can we, as grief counselors, acknowledge loss and help others without this negative form of toxic positivity? Well, first and foremost, stop trying to fix. There is no fixing an individual who is experiencing grief. Instead, listen and console. Instead of it's time to be strong, say it's okay to be sad during this difficult time. Instead of saying good vibes only, or it could have been worse, or everything happens for a reason, simply say I'm here for you during this terrible time. Instead of using a religious platitude such as he or she is in a better place, admit this is terrible and sad right now. Now, as grief counselors, there is an emphasis to restore the past to the future and to complete this life narrative so that the individual later is able to find acceptance in their loss, or in Warden's tasks to be able to incorporate the loss into one's life and still have a connection. Well, that's when the discussion of a deity or God comes into place. That's then. But in the raw moments of emotion, a toxic positivity is not warranted. There is an attempt to fix the moment, and no words can fix it. In fact, it can make it worse and make someone angry at God or uncomfortable with their own faith. So simply acknowledge the pain that someone is in right now. Don't try to fix it, acknowledge it. Listen, console, sojourn. And those are the keys to preventing toxic positivity from seeping in to a fresh wound itself. Acknowledge the situation, be a realist, experience the pain, whether you're experiencing it or helping someone experience it. Later comes the spin on life and how life does eventually get better. But toxic positivity in itself is never the answer. We are the American Academy of Grief Counseling. Our link is below. Our number is 330-652-7776, as well as our email at info@aihcp.org. I'd like to thank you for listening and have a good day.